Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today, I will be talking about Ali Reza Firouzja. So, what is his connection with Magnus Carlsen and many more? So, we all know that Magnus Carlsen abdicated his throne, and the world championship was fought between Jan Nepomniachtchi and Dingleren. But what we don't know is Magnus told that he will only play when Ali Reza's on the challenger side. But that did not happen as his candidates went very poorly. And yeah, it did not go very well for Alireza, but then Ding and Yan went and Ding won and everything. And now Alireza is going up against Ding Lishan. And after this interview, he said, the interviewer asked him, how does it feel to play Ding after playing Magnus? And Alireza said, yeah, I mean, Magnus was strong, but he said, and I quote, Ding is the easier world champion. Now, this is indeed a bit of a controversial statement, but I, in my personal opinion, agree with it. Definitely, Magnus is harder than Ding, and everyone knows that. And Ding is, in fact, the easier world champion if you have to put it in that sense. So, keeping the controversy aside, let's jump in right into the game. E4, E5, Knight F3, Knight E6, Bishop B5, Knight F6. This is all part of the Rui Lopez opening. D3, bishop c5, c3, castle, d5. Now the opening stops and now we actually play. Knight bd2, d takes e4, d takes e4, a5, queen c2, queen e7, a4, knight b8, h3, rook d8, bishop e2, knight bd7, rook e1, knight f8. Now, knight f8 was the first, like all of these moves from here look very, very, satisfying. Knight f8 is an accuracy. Inaccuracy. Why? Well, first of all, knight f8, it takes your eyes off the. First of all, knight. First of all, this knight can jump in, and this square is controlled. Whereas this knight had some sort of control on this square. Now after knight c4 and then knight g6, this side of the play seems more aggressive than this knight. Hence, this knight becomes more activated compared to previously when it was not. Now it is more activated. Knight f8, knight b3, bishop b6, knight fd2, knight b6, knight c4, bishop takes c4, knight bishop takes c4, knight d6, g3, h5, king g2, h4, queen e2, g6. Now, why have we played g6 now? The g6 over here. That, as you can see, it gives a bit of an advantage of zero point 0.5 to white. Why? Well, purely because of 92. I mean, as what is 92? I mean, after 92, I just play like 95 and stuff. I'm sorry. After 92, uh, I just march forward, So maybe 92 played by white. And if knight g5, attacking for this pawn, aiming for this pawn with some tempo, with some maybe the you want this queen maybe here, and after queen takes, that might be a bit troublesome for white. So hence, but knight d2, and you go knight g5. Oh, I want to. I'm sorry. Oh, knight g5. I want to threaten this weak. Put pressure on this h3 pawn. After knight d2, if you play that, and simply white could play knight f3, to redirect the knight, and the knight would have no other option to take it. And after knight takes f3, queen takes f3. This queen has this permanent bind on the f7 pawn, and I think what this knight can do is maybe knight h5. I'm sorry, not knight h5. Knight h5 is a bad move. If you just reanalyze, so after knight d2, um, knight g5, putting some pressure on this h3 pawn. uh, the white redirects the knight to f3, and after knight takes f3, queen takes f3, putting pressure on this one, putting pressure on this f7 pawn. And after knight h7 redirecting so that you have don't have to face some king difficulties. The king has to be able to defend against all sorts of attacks because the queen's on f3 and it's a very deadly square for the queen. We could white could march with b3 and the king has to run from then like run. I mean run, here and then gobble everyone. So that's what's wrong with this move. G6, knight d2, knight c5, knight f3, h takes g3, f takes g3, c knight, the c knight takes on e4, knight g5. Now knight g5 is a mistake for a reason, guys, because it allows knight d6, attacking the bishop, getting some tempo. What is this knight doing? This knight is useless. This knight is better than that knight. You know, knight d6. Now the bishop will retreat to bishop to b3. Then white would lash out with e4, and it's terrible. The bishop will go back to, like, maybe this bishop can go to f4, attacking, putting some pressure on that. But then after bishop h4, you simply have knight h5 putting more pressure on this pawn. It's an all sorts of attack. And if you try to defend saying, okay, queen g4, you have the cool, calm, and collected king g7. This king is ready to come into your territory. And king g7, you could go rook a d1, but it's not, black's not going to go for the trade. They're going to go queen f6, and it's going to be terrible for white. This might be a drawn endgame if white plays it correctly, but yes, it's a bit. Knight d6, just as like I said, attacking this bishop. Bishop a2, retreating the bishop all the way back. Very scared, Firuja. Rook e8 is a mistake. Now, why is rook e8 a mistake? Let's find out. So, rook e8, you're thinking plausibly that once I'm gonna push this pawn and the queen is there and the rook is there and it creates this huge battery on the e file, this can be stopped with the subtle, sorry, bishop f4. And now who's attacking who? I don't know, because after bishop f4, and you want to create some attack on knight h5. Now you have rook a d1 with a faster tempo, and like let's say you go knight takes f4 check, after g takes f4 with an exposed king. Of course, he'll move this king to g7, like, sorry, he'll move his king to g7, like always. But after that, maybe queen e5 check, because that pawn is gone, and yeah, it's going to be bad. But Ali Reza blunders here. H4. He doesn't see the tactic we had just said with, bishop f4, sacrificing the bishop to have an attack on the queen, and then, you know, although black can create some counterplay on the g3 pawn, you can go rook a d1 utilizing this d file, and after maybe knight takes f4 check, g takes f4, leaving open an exposed king. This king can go to g7, and then queen takes e5 check, and then the queen can defend with queen f6. But if queen takes f6, king takes f6, the king is somewhere here, and king is the white king is more safe here. So that's why he should have played bishop f4, but he has played h5, h4, king g7. We know that white was going to play king g7, black was going to play king g7 and run all the way over here. Rook f1, rook a d8. Another mistake. Why is that another mistake? Because this allows room for a passed pawn. You might ask, okay, what if like over here, why can't you not play h4? Because now the rooks aren't as connected as they used to be. But because now the rooks are connected, after h5, g takes h5, knight h. I'm sorry. After h5, g takes h5, knight h7, sacrificing the knight, king takes h7, bishop g5, pinning the knight to the queen to the rook. That is why it is so bad. But I mean, you could retreat with moves like, maybe you want some other, like after bishop g5, you could retreat this knight to e4, stopping all that. But I do not think this would be a good stop, because after, I mean, it would be a decent stop, but after moves like bishop b1, threatening again this knight, then the king has to run. Then the king, then it's terrible. Yeah. So because of this, because this is a mistake. Why is rook a8 a mistake again? You know, Ding's thinking, okay, I'm gonna double down on the rooks and then go there. But no, that is not the case, because that allows room for h4, h5, g takes h5, and some nasty ideas with this bishop later on. So that's why bishop d2 played, although that's a slight inaccuracy, because after bishop d2, I mean, they could lash out with e4 and then e5 and then e4 and then e3. That would be very troublesome. So e4, maybe you want to defend it, double down on rook a e1, but then they would play e3, and the queen would have to retreat, and the queen would have to, the bishop would have to run first of all, bishop c1, and after the queen would, support it again, queen e5, and this is just a never-ending barrage. So e4, bishop f4, e3, like I said, rook a d1, knight fe4 blunders the game. How? Well, simply bishop takes d6, and you cannot even take back, because of course rook takes on d6, and bishop takes d6. Well, you thought, okay, I'll recapture the knight. Oh, nah, that's not gonna stop anywhere. Knight goes. I'm sorry. Bishop takes 7, knight. Bishop. You thought, okay, bishop takes d6, knight takes d6. It doesn't end there. If you thought it doesn't end there. Hell no. You go. Bishop takes. I'm sorry. Bishop takes d6. Knight takes d6. And after that, you have the cool, calm, and collected. Bishop takes f7. Well, you might ask, what if you can't even take, because the rook is, you know, on this file. There's no bishop here. The rook is on this file. So the rook would have to go. After bishop takes f7, you would want to go uh, rook f7 check, checking this rook f7. Yeah, you would want to go rook f7 check and create some. I'm sorry, that was a terrible arrow. After the king clears out, maybe you would want to, after knight, after bishop takes f7, knight takes f7, and then rook takes f7 check. Then the queen would come and take f7, but after knight takes f7, it's a huge trade. It results in a positive thing for white. That's why knight fe4, a small move like knight fe4, allows room for moves like bishop takes, sorry, bishop takes d6, and you know crisscross applesauce. Bishop takes d6 found, knight takes d6, bishop takes f7, knight takes f7, rook takes f7 check, knight takes f7, queen takes f7, knight takes f7, rook takes d1, queen takes d1, king takes f7, queen e2, king e7 now. King e7, why is it a blunder? You're putting your king in front of your rook. That is not even what you're supposed to do. The king would run like this and gobble. I mean, the king not even run like that. The king could, run like this, to king f1. Although you could do some mad stuff with this pawn, c6 here, there. Maybe I did put this bit. Not no, don't put bishop there. Maybe c6. Put the bishop here. Do that. You would want that sort of setup. But after king f1, c6, there's attacks like queen g4, which is threatening all sorts of weird things, like the pawn is hanging, so it's terrible. King f1 played. Why is it crucial to get this king out of the way? Because of cal- because of uh, complexities which can arise due to this pawn coming and this king side opening up. Sorry, this king side opening up. That's why we want a safer king first, and then rook f8 check, king e1 hiding behind your queen. Uh, because this is better, because there's a pawn in front of you. So rook f2, queen g4, here, queen g5 check, here, queen f7. And it looks like Firuza's king f6, and Firuza just, calmly, cool, calm, and collected, keeps checking, and whatever checks Ding can give, it is nothing, because after everything like that, after rook g2, queen, after this, it's just losing, because you're going to get checked from every angle, and you're going to be like, being stabbed. And that's how Alireza won. So being done like, um, it's However, here at G5, we have seen all the complications which arise, because starting with some, uh, knight d6, prince and tempo, the bishop moving, this bishop going there, the rook coming in, and it's havoc for that, havoc for white, rook e, rook e8 also, because of a simple move like uh, bishop f4. It is bishop f4 and opening up this line. This was overlooked by Furusha. King g7 and this rook a8. Now, at least now, they could play, um, you know here. I'm sorry. Now you can just use this king side advantage, but that was done after moves, a lot of moves. Knight fe4, the blunder which had cost Ding the game, you can say, because after bishop takes d6 check and this and then this and maybe queen takes, knight takes. It's bad, yeah. So that whole trade happened, whole trade was being discussed, and then William finally convert and win the game. Now Ding could go with no checks, so yeah, calmly won it. And this was why he had said Ding was an easier world champion to beat than Magnus. And that will be the end of this video. Hope you liked it. So yeah, see you in the next video.